of them that giving the verdict about the doctor getting me sick. I don't know why they wouldn't mind the stinking business. Leave the man in peace. I say leave the damn doctor. Look, don't get me mad. Leave the damn doctor. Crisis or his murder in Trinidad. Leave the damn doctor. He ain't trouble on you. Leave the damn doctor. Where do you do? Leave the damn doctor. Where you crisis? Leave the damn doctor. Leave the damn doctor. He ain't trouble, damn doctor. Yes, the other party is there. They can't handle their own affair. They're stumbling with all the plan. Still they're harassing the blasted man. I say, leave the damn doctor. And don't get me mad. Leave me damn doctor. Way, or his murder in Trinidad. Leave me damn doctor. He ain't trouble on you. Leave me damn doctor. Way, or his murder in Trinidad. Way, they're making so much confusion, but race riot in England. They should kick them from Scotland Yard. We have the same question in Trinidad. I say, leave me down, doctor. And don't get me mad. Leave me down, doctor. It's murder in Trinidad. Leave me down, doctor. Why say, he ain't trouble on you. Leave me down, doctor. Hey, where you do, well do. Leave me down, doctor. Sing, sing.
Permit me, ladies and gentlemen, to officially say a pleasant good afternoon to you. I hope each and every one of you guys are doing fine today.
Well, the way how things shaping.
Today being Tuesday, the 11th day of March.
I'll tell you soon in the West Indies. It's please, Mr. Nigger, please.
God's blessing to each and every one of you, all right?
And don't get me.
We are here for another class in session program. My name is Royalty James. And I'm happy to have each and every one of you guys here with us this afternoon. We are yet to have that issue on our Facebook page rectified. So we are right here today, again, only on YouTube. So we are inviting persons to let persons know that we're here over on YouTube, so you can tag them, call them, let them know. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, again, let me just say a warm welcome to each and every one of you guys, to the persons who are joining me, as I said, only on YouTube today. The broadcast will be taking place, and so I want you to go ahead and invite persons, let them know that due to unforeseen circumstances, since yesterday we've been having issues with our YouTube page. I am hoping that we have no issue today of audio. I think the management would have definitely dealt with that. Yes, and so I really want to wow. JC Cherry, you read the book. I really don't want to deal with the long talking this evening. Yeah? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, I think I am a young electorate, and I am one of the persons who have always been intrigued with politics. Always been intrigued with politics. And I always tend to share my opinion honestly on issues. Yeah, I always try my best to share my opinion honestly. I'm hoping that the audio this evening is of no issues. As I said, we did attempt to rectify that issue. So if you guys are definitely hearing me loud and clear, please indicate so. And we can proceed with the conversation here this evening. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I definitely would have had a whole different thing planned today, because during the day, going through the debate, listening to the debate, I had, my very own things was planned for the debate today. But in proceeding to the studio, actually, an issue would have happened. And so I did not get the first-hand information as to what happened. And so, knowing the person that I am, I came back. I didn't want to just get, this is what happened. And so I went over to what really transpired this afternoon at the Parliament with members of the opposition leaving the House on what I believe, ladies and gentlemen, is simple understanding. I'm really trying to keep my composure for several reasons. Now, I want to go through the process with you guys. For those of you who didn't get the opportunity to hear it or had the opportunity to be a part of it yet, I want to go through the process, and I want to give you, I'm sorry that I said I can give you that visual, that visual part of it whereby, you can see what really happened. But however, let me just, try my utmost best to go as far back as to, where all this stem from. Yes? Now, ladies and gentlemen, for those of us who are unaware as it relates to Parliament, a member would move a motion in an honorable House. Yes? Members would have the opportunity to deliberate on it. Truthful. Yeah? That deliberation, after all members of the House would have deliberated, there must be an individual who can close that motion be moved. Understand this. It is correct that the Prime Minister can designate to whom can close. Yes? So the Prime Minister does have the right to designate who closes that debate. That is the facts. So when the Speaker of the House spoke in that light, he was being truthful. Right? Now let me just give you a hint as to what happened in the House at the time. And I want you to listen on. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is at the conclusion of the MP for St. Mark's deliberation. She was actually the last speaker in the entire House to make a deliberation. So the member of Parliament for St. Mark's was the final member in the deliberation of the argument, or the debate brought forward, or the motion brought forward. Yes? Now, at this stage in a debate, the next person standing will be the person, or should be the person, closing the debate. Mind you, when that was being done after the conclusion, the Prime Minister and the Minister for the member for St. George's Northwest, Honorable Dr. Keith Mitchell, was not in the House. Yes, those members was not in the House at all. But however, the Speaker of the House allowed the Minister of Finance to close. Right? So the member on the government side, and remember, the instruction is that the order would say the Prime Minister can give the instruction as to who closes the debate. No. if the member stood up for St. Patrick's East, who holds the position as Minister of Finance, who brought forward the budget, it means, ladies and gentlemen, that there should have been a communication between the Prime Minister, the Speaker of the House, and the Minister of Finance, the mere fact that he stood up to close the debate. The mere fact that he stood up to close the debate, a communication must have been made to him. Because I am doubtful that he is acting without the instruction of the Prime Minister. And if he was, it means that the communication was not passed to him to say, well, the Prime Minister is not there. You cannot close the debate. Let us await the Prime Minister. Yes? Let us await the Prime Minister. This is what was the basis of what the Speaker is trying to put as the standing order of the House. So, an instruction wasn't passed, it seems like, quote unquote, yes, to the member for St. Patrick's East. That is the Minister of Finance. So Mr. Cornwall started his deliberation. And this is where he started his deliberation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Sorry, Honorable MP. You proceed, please.
And I'm interjecting there. So from there, ladies and gentlemen, the Speaker of the House, if he was given any instruction there at the time from the Prime Minister, should have stopped the Speaker there. He acknowledged the Speaker. So he didn't say to the Speaker, Honorable Member for St. Patrick's East, we are not seeing the Prime Minister, and he's the person that I was given instruction as to him closing or you know the standing order. You didn't ask him, Minister or Member for St. Patrick's East, were you given directive from the Prime Minister as to proceeding in closing of the debate? You did not answer that. You didn't ask that question. You acknowledged him and you told him to proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, again. I wish to extend my deepest appreciation to all members of the important motion.
I don't need to yell. Let's move on.
Standing of our people. Thank you. Mr. Speaker.
Please come to the bench.
Now let me pause. Here is the Speaker the Speaker of the House telling the Minister or the Parliamentary Rep to approach the bench. Right? So he's saying to him, approach the bench. So the Speaker is telling the member, approach the bench. And so he did. He proceeded.
Join us here, please.
Or join you.
Right. So join them. Right? He joined them. Let's proceed. The Speaker is coming back. Listen again. The member is coming back to speak. Listen again.
Mr. Speaker, I was saying that the leader of the opposition spoke on economic decline in the global economy and here at home in Grenada, citing the World Economic Report as published by the IMF. Mr. Speaker, the World Economic Report, however, tells a very different story.
Now, mind you, the leader of the opposition is seated there. She's there, and he would have mentioned the speaker, the member of the opposition. Now remember, the persons in the House that are not there are the Prime Minister and Dr. Mitchell. Right? So he is speaking and he's directing what he's saying to the member of the opposition, the leader of the opposition. Not Dr. Mitchell, not the Prime Minister.
Grenada's economy continues to grow with
I don't want to hear that.
the Speaker and the with my signature attached. It's very whether to
Stop you, but we need to take a...
the opposition purpose.
Listen this.
Budget loan authorization, the fiscal deficitary. Mr. Speaker, the opposition is trying their best to mislead the nation.
Honourable Member,
Sorry.
I hate to stop you, but we need to take a 3-minute recess to get the matter resolved.
I didn't get you, Mr. Speaker.
To get a matter resolved.
Okay.
No. Listen it. He stood in the recess to get a matter resolved. Are you listening what he said? He said he stood the House down to have a matter resolved. So you're stating to the member that you're stopping him to have a matter resolved. Now I want you to listen when he returns why he said he left the Honorable House.
So I am prepared to seek access to ascertain to conclude that give him the I am prepared.
I didn't want to go too far back. My
Both
apologies.
yourself and the Honourable MP for Senate.
My apologies. I really didn't want to go too far. However, right,
This Parliament once more reconvene.
right. Listen why he said he took the recess now.
Honourable members and those in the gallery, you notice I called the recess because when the Honourable MP for St. Patrick began to address the House, I noticed that neither the Prime Minister nor the MP for St. George's Northwest were around.
So, you are saying to me, you call a 3-minute recess, letting the House know that you're going to resolve an issue. That is what you told the Honorable House. That is what you said to the House when you stood the recess. You said you're going to deal with an issue. Nobody, you never mentioned anything there about having to get the Prime Minister and the member for St. George's Northwest. That is not why you said you stood the House down. You said you were going to resolve an issue. You were going to resolve an issue. So you went to resolve an issue, then come back to the House and say, well, if you're still standing on the House, honorable members, this House standing in recess as we try to ascertain the member for St. David's, the Prime Minister, and you didn't say that. You said you were going to resolve an issue. So how you come back to the House and telling the House, oh, you went to look for the Prime Minister and the member for St. George's Northwest? Moving on smartly.
I need to know exactly what is happening.
Yes.
That will determine.
No. This is Dr. Mitchell addressing the issue. No. Listen tone, listen volume, listen the question asked.
what I do relative to my own situation in this House at this time.
Right. The Honorable Prime Minister has decided that he will be the one to close the debate.
But that in itself, ladies and gentlemen, the Speaker have to be crazy. Because the Prime Minister must have known in the back of his mind that the last member of the House was on the floor, which was the member for St. Mark's. He must have known that Dr. Moles is on the floor. And so he must have been aware that Dr. Moles have completed her conversation and her deliberation. And now the opportunity to come and close the debate was there. There was about a 5-minute span, 8 as the most, was given to the Minister of Finance. You call a recess. You call a recess with about 8 minutes into the deliberation. You call a recess within 8 minutes into the deliberation of the Minister of Finance closing the budget. So yes, the fact is, on the standing order, the Prime Minister has the right to instruct whomever or he believes can close the budget. But the Prime Minister who was in the House, his member stood up. His very own member stood up. So his member stood up and his member started to deliberate to close the budget. You acknowledge him the first time. You called him on the bench. He came back, continued speaking. You acknowledge him speaking on 2 occasions, knowing fully well that at this stage he is closing the budget. You knew he was closing the budget. It is not something you don't know. You were quite aware that the member was closing the budget. So when you took the recess to go and deal with an issue, you stepped into the House that you were going to deal with an issue. You came back to the House and said, you're trying to find the Prime Minister and Dr. Mitchell. I cannot understand how we as a people, listen to me, Leo Cato write a letter to the Governor General letting her know that you are incapable of the position. This at this stage is not a matter of, okay, when he just reached and maybe you don't know everything. You cannot represent Grenada nowhere as a speaker in the House. Nowhere in the wall. Something has to be wrong with you. Even if we understand the rules of the House, there is morals. The speaker was stopped on 2 occasions. On 2 occasions, the speaker was acknowledged. When he stood up, you acknowledged him. You called him to the bench, he went back. You acknowledged him again. So you acknowledge him on 2 occasions. Then you call a recess. Come back into the House and tell the House, okay, the Prime Minister is now going to close the debate. How is that? And you see, this is not something whereby, okay, it happened a good while now. So the Prime Minister wasn't there, so he didn't tell them. Because you can hear that the Minister of Finance was ready to close the debate. He had his pointers, things that the member of the opposition said, and other members, he got documentation for things that were said. He had his information ready to close the debate. He was ready to close the debate. Because of the things that you hear him starting to mention, he started by speaking about what the opposition leaders say. So it is something that happened in the House spontaneously. Something that happened spontaneously. The standing order gives the Prime Minister that right. But when you would have already acknowledged the member, the Prime Minister cannot override your decision. The Prime Minister cannot and should not override your decision when you would have acknowledged the Speaker on 2 occasions. So you just make yourself a fool in the House. You know what the standing order says, right? When the member stood, having the knowledge as it relates to what the standing order said, that the Prime Minister can close the debate or he can instruct one to do so. You realizing that the Prime Minister is not there. You at that point should have pulled the House in recess or tell the member for St. Patrick's West, based on our standing orders here in the House, we know that the Prime Minister must be able to be here to either give you the instruction or the okay to close the debate, or he has to do it himself. You didn't close it at that time. You didn't stop the Speaker. And that was the juncture in which you had to speak to the Speaker, to the member. When you realize he stood to close the debate, knowing that the standing order says the Prime Minister can, should, or will be able to instruct an individual to close the debate, the Prime Minister was not in the House. Right there and then, you had to find the location of the Prime Minister to find out what is his decision on the deliberation of closing the debate. That's what you had to do then. You did not do that. You acknowledged the Speaker at the time, which is the Minister of Finance. You might have gotten a little word that the Prime Minister says something. You called the Minister of Finance to the bench. Yes? When you called him to the bench, he came back and continued deliberating longer than the first time before you stop him. So on 2 occasions, you knew what the standing order said. You gave the Speaker of the House, or the Speaker, the honorable member, the opportunity to speak. You gave him the leeway to speak. You acknowledged him on both occasions. When he stood up, there, number one, opportunity number one. Honorable member, I'm acknowledging the fact that you're standing. I'm wanting to know whether or not you're closing debate. Now, if you're closing the debate, I am wanting to know whether or not the Prime Minister is in okay of giving you the opportunity to close the debate. However, the honorable member is not in the House. I am therefore asking that the House stand in recess, and I would ask that the Prime Minister join me in chambers as I get whatever instructions he has to give as it relates to the closing of the kiss me ass debate. That is your role and function there and then, knowing the standing order. Now, when you realize that you didn't do that, you called him to the bench. Another opportunity to say, honorable members, it seems like we're having some discrepancies as it relates to the person who should be closing the debate. Therefore, I stand in recess. The Prime Minister is not here, and based on the standing order, I would have to get an instruction from him as to whether or not the honorable member can close the debate. Therefore, I stand the House down in recess. You didn't do that then. You sent back the member to speak again. You sent the member back to speak, and he started to speak. Then you say, you stand in the House down to deal with an issue or a matter. That's what you told the House. You came back in the House, letting the House know that you went on recess to locate the Prime Minister and the member for St. George's Northwest. Now, let me say to you, in a closing remark or deliberation, nobody can rebut. That is the last word. So even if Mr. Cornwall had called any one of the members on the other side name, they cannot rebut. They can't even stand on a point of clarification and say that is not what I said, because he is about to close the debate. So none of them they could have stayed. Dr. Mitchell could have stayed outside all evening. All the members, because they don't have the opportunity again to in no way rebut. As I said, only at a point, maybe something in the standing order, as they did. But if Mr. Cornwall says the member of the opposition leader said X or Y, he cannot stand to make any deliberation on it because he's closing the debate. And that is the rules of the House. And if as a young parliamentarian I could have remembered that, how are you telling me the Speaker of the House don't know that? How are you telling me that? You come back into the House. You came back into the House. Dr. Mitchell is saying to you, okay, this is not the order of the House. This is not the order of the House. you stand now with the documentation as it relates to what the order says, which you didn't follow. You is the one that didn't follow. Because you are saying that the Prime Minister has the right to close for himself or instruct somebody to close. You did not get a word from the Prime Minister, but you have a member closing. So you don't see you is the one that looking like the fool in the house? You didn't get instruction from the Prime Minister. You knows what the standing order says as it relates to the Prime Minister being able to close. You didn't ask for the Prime Minister, but you acknowledge the member to speak. You're saying to me that you don't even have the ounce of Christian moral and dignity to realize that what you're doing in the house is unethical and morally incorrect? You are allowing your political affiliates to drag you in a place where not even the devil go want to see you when they're done with you in Grenada. This upset me to the core. Because you could never say to me, and mind you, when the Prime Minister started to close, and next member was not in the house, you know. I think, who was it that was missing there? I think it was Mr. Andal. Mr. Andal, there were two members. Mr. Andal, no, I lie. Not Mr. Andal. Tevin Andrews and somebody else wasn't in the house at the time. Tevin Andrews and somebody else, two other members, was not in the house when the Prime Minister now was closing. He didn't call a recess to call back in these two members. You understand me? And go back and look at it. Look from 2 minutes, 2 hours, 13 minutes and 22 seconds. And look at the photograph. When the Prime Minister, when the deliberation was going on, as it relates to the Prime Minister speaking, there were two members that was not in the house. Because looking at it, I believe, Mr. Lennox Andrew and Tevin Andal. Those are the two members that wasn't in the house. Those members was not in the house. So you did not call a recess then because these two members wasn't in the house and the Prime Minister was deliberating. So you had a recess to retrieve two members in the house. When you cause two members to come back in the house, two members go. You didn't call a recess for that. Leo, if it was from Victoria, this carnival, I would have played Veko on my body. Even if the Krishna child are playing Veko just to beat you. You know what you're doing. It is evident now. It is evident. Because you are calling and reading out the order and not realizing that you're the one that is making yourself fool with the order. You know what the order says. You knows what the order says. And if the order says the Prime Minister have to grant that instruction, you did not call for the Prime Minister. You didn't call for the Prime Minister. You didn't say, well, Honorable Member, the Prime Minister is not here, so we cannot deliberate on the issue. Or we cannot have your closing until... You did not call for the Prime Minister. And the Honorable Member started to speak. And again, you see, lack of knowledge. Because Dr. Mitchell says, listen to me, I am standing here on the order that I am standing up for the Minister of Finance. And if Mr. Cornwall do the retrospecting, I see that as a total disrespect to him and his office. I see that as a total disrespect. Because if you're standing to speak, because listen to Mr. Cornwall. He had his points, he had his information, he had his document to prove that they signed for something. So he was ready to close the debate. So what it is now with the Prime Minister? What happened? You messing icing cake and pin champagne? The honorable member stood to do what they had to do, and he was prepared to do what he had to do. He knows, but he does use it conveniently, Ms. Waldron. So you are aware, and you did not follow the rules of the House, and then you make yourself a fool. And you want to tell Dr. Mitchell, sit down, and you want to tell people, sit down, and he didn't Mike shoops in. Somebody should have hit you on last shot. I don't like shoopiness. If you don't understand the rules, go to the Prime Minister, call the Governor General, say, ma'am, sir, I'm having issues with understanding the rules of the House. And so I don't think I'm the person that I should take up the mantle of the job. Too many mistakes. There is recordings all over the place. All over the place, there is recordings. Member of the House calling people dog. She says she don't call people dog. A member says something. Dr. Mitchell says all about it. You're not respecting the rules of the House. I am way too much in love with politics to see our honorable members being in the House. Even the members on the government side know Leo doing good. They knows, but it is in favor of them. So what they gonna do? They gonna knock the table. It doesn't go against them. It does not go against them. So they go knock the table, they go make laugh, they go. Dr. Mitchell stand up and the other members leaving. And Andy Williams, Ron Redhead, and Tevin knocking table and showing bye-bye. A set of jackassness in the House of Parliament in Grenada. A set of foolishness on the basis of what? Political affiliance? Position? Based on educational level, one of the members that was knocking the table is the dumbest one in the House. Well, two put together. No, when I get hot, so they just send a letter for me, so I'm awaiting it. But it's the truth. There are young people like myself and others. And when you look on Facebook, the young people that are now getting involved in and around politics, are they going to grow to that? That is what they're going to grow to. We used to have youth parliaments sitting months after months, year after year, weeks after weeks. And the way we deliberated as young youth parliamentarians is way better than what I'm seeing displayed there. Way better. I remember our Speaker of the House in Youth Parliament was acknowledged by the Speaker of the House one time. That's Mr. Salab. Ask about that. He was acknowledged by the Speaker of the House at the time, even in Youth Parliament. And I'm certain that Mr. Salab is doing a better job than what I see this gentleman is doing there. Come on. We have to set a standard somewhere now. These men are moving unethical on the government's in the government's business. Unethical. Dress code off. Dress code and all off. In all my years. All my years. I see the member for St. John's dress to the House of Parliament yesterday. And I'm asking myself, what is going on? I've always known myself, even the mockery that we had as youth parliamentarian, the young ladies came there well decked. Particular senator is now watching the clip, and a senator sit down in the house, he didn't have a jacket on him. A shirt and a tie. Senator. We need to leave that moral standard in the House of Parliament. We need to do it. And if we're not going to do it now, it's going to leave us and go. This man not ready yet. You could never tell me this man ready for what he's doing there. You could never say that to me. Mr. Keto is not ready to be a Speaker of the House. He does not understand it, and when he gets the opportunity to use the standing order and use the ordinance properly, he's not using it. Lack of understanding, lack of knowledge. Young people are watching this. Young people are watching this. The standing order is correct. That is my stance. What he said about the standing order is correct. You knew the order. You knew what is supposed to happen. And so it was your right, Mr. Cato, to immediately stop the member for St. Patrick's when he stood up to speak. You know the standing order say, is the Prime Minister or who the Prime Minister instruct. You didn't get word from the Prime Minister, but the member stood up and you acknowledge him. Now, if I'm sitting there, I am of the belief, who understands the Parliament, would say to myself, wait, well, the Prime Minister gave the gentleman the opportunity to close. You didn't do that. And I'm repetitive because I want persons to understand that the judgment that was made was a call spontaneous. It was a spontaneous call. Whenever they went to the recess, somebody must tell him, what the Prime Minister say, he go close. Like if you know, we're playing some kind of cat and mouse game in the House of Parliament. Ladies and gentlemen, if we look back to what happened with Honorable Emlyn Pay and signing as opposition leader, let me say this to you. Now, it is even more vivid that this was no mishap. You hear me? This was no mishap. This was no mishap. This person's intention clearly was to not see Honorable Emlyn Pay sitting in that position as opposition leader when Dr. Mitchell gave it up. And you could even hear the Prime Minister saying it today, and I want to get it on record because this is part of the speech I'm not taking easy today. Because after they left, after the members left, he would have said something. He would have said something to Honorable Peter David. And I hope that I get that piece of clipping. I'm hoping that I get that piece of clipping correct. Because mind you, I didn't cut it. I didn't cut what I'm playing now. Yeah? I am just playing it straight from the GIS live that was done today. And I want to believe that it has ended, and so it would become difficult for me now to get it because I think the sitting in itself has concluded. Yes? No, I think the Prime Minister is... No, the live has ended. The live has ended. And so it will take a while for me to get back that clip. But however, let me say this. We need to reach a point, ladies and gentlemen, where the understanding must be, ladies and gentlemen, that justice must be exercised in the House of Parliament. And this is a situation, typical example, that we have an incompetent person in a position that should be the light of our nation, the Speaker of the House. History would show us members of the House, speakers of the House, that have served the House and served it diligently. Yes? And when you have mistakes like that, and when acknowledged that you made a mistake, and listen to me, this could have been rectified by the Speaker saying, all right, Honorable Member, I realize that based on the standing order, it was up to me to make the decision, and I should have. Yes? It was you, as the Speaker, knowing what the standing order says, should have at the time immediately brought to the attention of the member, hey, it should be on the instruction of the Prime Minister that you speak. However, I don't know if the Prime Minister is anywhere wrong or he can be found, and he come and let us know whether or not he would be closing or he has given you that instruction. Basically, it's like Deacon came out from wherever and just came and said, listen to me, Mr. Speaker, me that speaking. Me that speaking. This is not the right way to go, ladies and gentlemen. And if we are going down that path as a country and we continue to look at this in its moral aspect, morally, take out all your political cap for a while and look at it on the moral aspect. Because after the members would have left, Prime Minister stating, telling Peter David to take the position of opposition leader, and he can do that. He has the right to do that. Vague statements, loose statements, behavioral patterns of a little boy's behavior. Little boy's behavior. I remember many of you guys saying, oh, I can't support Kit Mitchell and I can't support NMP because Kit Mitchell I respect, I need a respect. I have never seen more disrespect shown in a short space of time. Like I'm saying now. Because I always tell them, mark me and mark me well. Because the knowledge that God have encompassed me with, I'm going to use it for people who don't understand and who don't know. Should understand. Mr. Cato is not good for the House of Parliament. Mr. Cato does not understand the moral and mutual stance that he must take in the House of Parliament. Because if the order is in front of you and the ordinance is there for you to understand and you are not allowing it to be exercised, then go at your home and sit down and rest and enjoy the pension money they go pay you. I'd rather you do that. I am certain that in the capacity of a teacher, you implored to students to be fair to people. At the end of the day, there is a moral stance that must be taken. The members of the opposition stood, they stated, you're infringing on the ordinance of the House. You would have allowed a member to start to close. That have never happened. That could never happen, no way. That a member stand to close. That a member stand to close, and then you're saying to him, sit down for another member to close. That don't happen. That does not happen in the House of Parliament. You would have acknowledged the Speaker. You acknowledged him when he started to speak. Honorable member for St. Patrick's, we're sorry. He's sorry. You can go, you can proceed. You stopped him, you called him to the bench. He came back. You acknowledge him again to continue speaking. You call the House in recess on the notion that there is a situation that you need to resolve. Because I don't think there is nothing hidden in you telling the Honorable House, as the Speaker of the House, I am standing the House down in order to find the Prime Minister and the member for St. George's Northwest. There is no hidden agenda in that. You said you're going to have an issue resolved. You came back. And you're saying to the people, you went to find the Prime Minister and the member for St. George's Northwest. Now you come back into the House, right? And when you get back into the House, the members that was there, 2 went missing. You did not call a recess to find them. You proceeded with the matter. And so if you proceeded, it simply means that you weren't in no issue with persons leaving the House while there is a deliberation taking place. You had no issues with that. Now, when the order was brought forward by the members of the opposition, stating that you have gone wrong with the morals and the order of the House. Instead of giving a prompt response, you grab the book and you read what you should have known since the member stood up to deliberate. Having the knowledge that you have, that the Prime Minister should give that instruction, you allow the member to start his deliberation. Not once, but twice. So the members dissatisfied with the response given, because, well, I can't say you give them a response. You just simply said what you said, and you tell the Prime Minister, continue with his deliberation. Now, the moral about this, and as Dr. Mitchell is saying, he's standing on the mere fact. And he says he's standing up for the finance minister. Now, Dr. Mitchell said it. He says he's standing up for the finance minister. Because this is morally disrespectful even to the officer of the Minister of Finance, or the office, of the Minister of Finance. The man ready to close, the man have eating. You hear he started with his deliberation. He bring his evidence where he signed the document for some school. He say he go and he sign for. All ready and prepared. Fact of the matter is, when you look at that, ladies and gentlemen, it is just there to show you there was absolutely nothing that happened on the ground there. Because if Miss Modest is deliberating, yes, and the Prime Minister knows, well, Miss Modest is the last person before he closed the debate. Where was he? Where was he? Because even if he was aware, somebody would have said, well, Miss Modest finished, knowing that the Prime Minister is closing. But the members stood up because nobody knew the Prime Minister was closing the debate. Because when the members started speaking, even other members on his side was knocking the table. So them and all didn't even know. Nobody knew to pinch him and say, Minister Cornwall, you will have to sit down, the Prime Minister said he was going to close. Nobody knew that. Somewhere between the commencement of his deliberation and the point where he was called to the bench, that is when he knew that it seems like the Prime Minister wanted to close. So he was called to the bench. He went back. At that time, at this point, no information again that the Prime Minister was going to close. Because when he came back to stand up, you acknowledged him again and told the member, go ahead, proceed. Go ahead, proceed. So with all that, ladies and gentlemen, lack of communication, lack of acknowledging the fact that you are unaware, lack of knowing that, okay, the Prime Minister had to close. You didn't know that. You were aware about that. Because if you knew, then immediately there, you should have stopped the speaker or the member and say, member, the Prime Minister says you want to close. He started the deliberation because rightfully the member, yes, the member would have read the budget. He deliberated on his ministerial position. So there is no way, if he did not have to speak again, he would have never stand up. He would have never prepared to speak again because he cannot speak again. He brought forward the budget and he deliberated on his ministry. So he had not to speak again. That's Mr. Cornwall. So Mr. Cornwall would have never prepared a speech to speak again if he did not have to speak again. He cannot speak 3 times in the House. He brought the budget forward. He deliberated on his ministry. And he was ready to close. Because he had not to stand again. After Miss Modest spoke, the only thing that should have happened there and there was the closing of the house, of the budget. So Mr. Connor would have never prepared another speech. He would not have prepared another speech. He can't speak 3 times in the house. The budget was presented, he deliberated on his ministry, and that was it. If he did not have to speak, he didn't have to speak again. Right? Now, in the circumstances of the Prime Minister, if the Prime Minister would have read the budget, he himself could have again, on his ministry, spoke, and then he could have closed the budget. So the Prime Minister had the opportunity to do that. So remember, the very first person who deliberated on the budget was Mr. Cornwall. So Friday, yes, Friday, when he presented, the opposition leader would have responded, and he thereafter would have responded, or he would have spoken on his ministry. Yes, he didn't present the budget at the Minister of Finance. Understand that? He presents the budget as the person who's basically moving the motion. Yes? And so, after that is done, he then, yes, can present. And if you remember, after Miss Pear would have spoken on Monday, Mr. Cornwall spoke immediately thereafter. Yes? So you can go back and check it. Because I'm seeing there's a MC Ghost, and better he be a MC Ghost. Yeah? Because Mr. Cornwall was the first person who spoke after the opposition leader. And so he spoke on the behalf of his ministry. Right? So he spoke twice. His third occasion was when he was going to close the budget. Right? Because after the member for St. Mark's, nobody had to speak, but the budget was closed because all members would have spoken. All members would have spoken. Right? So, I want you guys to understand this. This is not a matter of color. Yes? This is not a matter of color. This is not a matter of, Now, we need to understand where we stand in this. Right? So, if the Prime Minister, and I am wondering, or whether or not you know, yes, that the Prime Minister would have deliberated on the budget, spoke on the budget. Yes? Somebody's going back to March 11th, morning session, day 2, approximately 3 minutes, thereabout. Somebody is directing me to, yes, directing me to that, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, as I said, I had my planned information for today. But it seems like we're going to have to leave that for tomorrow, because at the end of the day, and listen, ladies and gentlemen, in the comment section, the person who is talking with the MC ghosting, leave that person alone. Realize the person starts with the insult, and once person starts with that, I just get thing, yeah? So I doesn't want to address those things, because first thing you know, Allah, let her go reach me again. And it's not a matter of afraid it, but try to avoid them. Yeah? Right? The fact of the matter is, when we are conscientious about what has to happen, let it happen. Because the speaker made it clear that he's aware this is what the ordinance says. When the Prime Minister stood up, he said that. I'm going to close the debate. Says that. So it means the only conversation that could have happened after Ms. Modest was the closing of the debate. Yes? So nobody had to address again but the closing of the debate. The motion must be moved. I therefore stand at the budget for 2025 meeting, and all in favor say aye. All in favor say nay. That's what had to happen after. For those of us who's seeking knowledge or is knowledgeable, this is what happens thereafter. That's what should happen thereafter. Yes? So, ladies and gentlemen, let us stay focused. The budget has been presented. The state's expenditure, revenue, income, and expenditure, it is now to happen. We wish government all the best in all that they have to do. Because rain no fall on one man house. If the government fails as a state, it doesn't affect NDC supporters. It affects all. Yeah? Our role and function, especially in my capacity, is to simply give you information that goes against the things that we as a people should get from government. Yes? There is no reason in the back of your mind to wish them demise or failure. I am not going to sit and do it. I wouldn't advise you to do it. It would affect all of us. It would affect all of us. And so we wish this present administration all the best. And when or if anything were to happen contrary, we know what we should and will do come the next general election. Yes? The fact of the matter is, Grenada belongs to each and every one of us. And we must take a stance in what is good to the state. I would end on putting on record that I commend the pay and grade. Yes? I commend things that would uplift the state. Yes? I commend a brand new hospital. There is buts behind it. Suggestions can be made. Consultations can be made. Yes? Ever so often, I rather give you advice and you fail than speak ill of you and when you fail, try to give you advice. Let us continue to pray for our nation, ladies and gentlemen. Let us continue to keep in mind that Grenada belongs to you and I, not them. And they ought to be saying the same thing. Not them, it belongs to us. Yes? And I want to say to each and every one of you guys, stay blessed, stay prayed up, and continue to support your political organization. Be it you support NNP, you support NDC, I respect you on who you support. As I said to many of you guys, my only time when you realize that I would move differently is when you start to attack my personal characteristics. I normally get very defensive with that. Anyone, anywhere, could tell you that. If you want to see Prince Gallup, disrespect me. Yes? Stay prayed up. Stay blessed. Yes? Stay prayed up, stay blessed, and stay focused. It definitely was a pleasure to be with you guys here for another wonderful class in session program. You can join me back here again tomorrow. Yes, where we again can continue this conversation. Yeah? And knowledge can be imparted from you. And I can learn from you and you can learn from me. And this is the energy that you foster in growth and development. Eh? Growth and development. All right? So we have gone 7 minutes, gone past the hour of 7. And so we know we have other programs that will be coming up. We have Talking Point that should be on later on. So it was definitely a pleasure being in your company. My name, Royalty James. Have yourself a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful evening. All right? God blessings to each and every one of you.
All of them that give in the verdict about the doctor getting me sick. I don't know why they wouldn't mind the stinking business. Leave the man in peace. I say, leave the damn doctor. Look, don't get me mad. Leave the damn doctor. Crisis or his murder in Trinidad. Leave the damn doctor. He ain't trouble on you. Leave the damn doctor. Where do you do? Leave the damn doctor. Where you crisis? Leave the damn doctor. Leave me damn doctor. Leave me damn doctor. Yes, the other party is there. They can't handle their own affair. They're stumbling with all the plan. Still they're harassing the blasted man. I say, leave me damn doctor. And don't get me mad. Leave me damn doctor. Way, or his murder in Trinidad. Leave me damn doctor. He ain't trouble on you. Leave me damn doctor. Way, or his murder in Trinidad. Way, they're making so much confusion, but race riot in England. They should kick them from Scotland Yard. We have the same question in Trinidad. I say, leave me down, doctor. And don't get me mad. Leave me down, doctor. Or his murder in Trinidad. Leave me down, doctor. Why say, he ain't trouble on you. Leave me down, doctor. Hey, where you do, you well do. Leave me down, doctor. Sing, sing. Well, the way how things shaping up, all this nigger business must stop. I tell you soon in the West Indies, is please, Mr. Nigger, please, leave the damn doctor. And don't get me mad. Leave the damn doctor. Or his murder in Trinidad. Leave the damn doctor. Yes, he ain't trouble on you. Leave the damn doctor.